In a simple joke during a graduation party, two supposed twins discovered something unbelievable. The more they looked for answers, the more frightening and unsustainable the situation became. When they looked at the results of the DNA test they had done, the doctor immediately recommended that the black twins call a lawyer. Embark on this exciting story now. And if you already know our channel and want to help us continue to thrill you with more videos, I ask you to help us by pressing the like button. Let's go to the video. It was a vibrant night full of emotions. Leanne and Melanie were surrounded by friends and family at their graduation party, celebrating the completion of another important stage in their lives. The room was decorated with colorful balloons, commemorative banners, and photographs of the twins from their childhood. Upbeat music was playing in the background, and everyone was engaged in lively conversations about the girls' future plans. Their mother, smiling and visibly moved, walked towards her daughters with the envelope in her hands. She was looking forward to sharing a special moment with them. "Girls, look what arrived in the mail today," said the mother, handing over the envelope. "Do you remember the DNA test you took a few months ago? Here are the results." Leanne and Melanie looked at each other with excitement and curiosity. They had sent their DNA to a genetic testing service, hoping to find out more about their ancestry. It was supposed to be fun, something to laugh about and share with the family. "Ah, finally," Leanne exclaimed. "Let's see where we came from, Melanie." Both opened their envelopes at the same time, revealing papers full of graphs and percentages of various nationalities. Laughing, they began to read the results aloud. "Look, I have 25% Italian origin," said Leanne with a smile. "And I'm 20% Irish," Melanie replied, laughing. The room was filled with laughter as the twins continued to compare their results. However, the atmosphere suddenly changed when Melanie mentioned something that caught Leanne's attention. "Wait, Leanne, do you have any percentage of Nigerian origin? Because I have 15% here." Leanne frowned and looked at her own results. "Nigerian? No, I don't have any of that." She quickly grabbed Melanie's sheet and began comparing the two. The smile disappeared from his face, replaced by an expression of confusion and concern. "That doesn't make sense," Leanne muttered. "The percentages are completely different." The twins' parents, who were nearby watching, noticed the change in mood. Their father asked curiously, "What's up, girls? Any problems with the results?" Leanne turned sharply to her parents, holding the two result sheets. "What kind of bad joke are you trying to play? It makes no sense. Why are our results so different? We are not twin sisters." Their mother was pale and speechless, while her father tried to intervene. "Calm down, Leanne. There must be some error in the test. We will investigate this with the company." Melanie, visibly shaken, looked at Leanne and then at her parents. "This can't be right. We are sisters, always have been. There cannot be a mistake like that." The party, which was once a joyful event, turned into a scene of tension and uncertainty. The room fell silent. They were not biologically related, much less twins. With this revelation, the silence in the room turned into confusion. After the initial shock of the DNA test results, the room was enveloped in tense silence. Leanne and Melanie looked at their parents, waiting for an explanation that could make sense of the confusing situation. Their father, noticing his daughter's discomfort, stepped forward with a serious, more reassuring expression. "Girls, this can't be right," he said, trying to calm the atmosphere. "I was there when you were born. I saw them both leaving the delivery room, and I was the one who personally picked them up from the nursery." Leanne stared at her father, seeking some comfort in those words. "But Dad, how do you explain these differences in results? They are completely different." He sighed, trying to remain calm. "There may be an error in the sample that was sent, or perhaps there was a problem with processing the data. We will call the DNA testing company on Monday and file a complaint. I'm sure there is a logical explanation for this." Melanie, who was visibly shaken, began to calm down with her father's explanation. "Dad, do you think it could really be a mistake? This all seems so scary." Her father placed a comforting hand on Melanie's shoulder. "I'm sure, darling. Let's solve this together. Now, Let's try to enjoy the rest of the party. It's a special day for both of you." With that, the twins began to calm down. Leanne let out a deep sigh, trying to shake off her worries. "It's okay, Dad. Let's leave this aside for now and call the company on Monday." Melanie nodded, trying to smile. "Yes, let's do that. Today is our graduation party. Let's enjoy it." The atmosphere in the room started to relax again. Friends and family, realizing that the situation was under control, returned to talking and celebrating. The happy music started again, and laughter filled the room again. However, even as the joy and celebration of the graduation party continued, Leanne and Melanie couldn't get the DNA results out of their heads. That night, Melanie's mind was filled with unsettling thoughts. Unable to sleep, she got out of bed, walking silently down the hall to Leanne's room. She opened the door slowly, finding her sister awake, staring at the ceiling. "Leanne, are you awake?" Melanie whispered, entering the room. "Yes, Melanie, I can't stop thinking about the DNA test results." "Something isn't right," Leanne replied, sitting on the bed. "I feel that too. We need to resolve this as quickly as possible. How about we go to the family doctor for a new DNA test?" Melanie suggested, her voice full of determination. Leanne agreed, feeling relieved to have a plan. "Yes, let's do that. Tomorrow morning, as soon as we can." The next morning, the sisters discreetly left the house and went to Dr. Nicholas's office. When they arrived, the doctor was surprised to see them alone. "Melanie, Leanne, what are you doing here so early and without your parents?" Dr. Nicholas asked, getting up from his desk to greet them. "Dr. Nicholas, we need your help. Something strange happened with the results of our DNA tests, and we want to do a new test to clear up our doubts," Melanie explained, handing the documents to the doctor. Dr. Nicholas frowned as he read the results. "Are you telling me there are discrepancies in the results? I thought this was a joke, but I see you are serious. We need to clear this up immediately." He took the girls' documents and made some notes. "Let's perform a new DNA test right here. I want to make sure there are no mistakes." "Don't worry, we'll sort it out." Leanne and Melanie breathed a sigh of relief while Dr. Nicholas prepared the material for the new test. He explained the process, collected the samples, and promised that the results would be delivered as quickly as possible. "Thank you, Dr. Nicholas. We just want to know the truth," said Leanne, holding her sister's hand. "I understand, girls. Don't worry, I'll do my best to clarify everything," replied the doctor, giving them a reassuring smile. The sisters left the office anxiously. Now, all that was left was to wait for the new results, hoping that everything was just a mistake. 2 days have passed since Melanie and Leanne took the new DNA test. The wait seemed endless, but the day finally arrived to get the results. The girls entered Dr. Nicholas' office, eager to hear what he had to say. When they entered the room, they immediately realized that something was wrong. Instead of a reassuring smile, Dr. Nicholas greeted them with a look of grave concern. "Dr. Nicholas, have we received the results?" Leanne asked, trying to hide her anxiety. The doctor sighed deeply before answering. "Yes, we have the results. Sorry to say, but your DNA doesn't match." Melanie and Leanne looked at each other, their faces pale with shock. "What does this mean, Dr. Nicholas?" Melanie asked, her voice shaking. "It means that, biologically, you are not sisters. Your DNA doesn't match." "I know this is hard to hear and even harder to process," Dr. Nicholas explained, his expression full of empathy. Leanne felt her legs weaken and held on to the chair to keep from falling. "How is this possible? Our parents always said we were twins. What should we do now?" Dr. Nicholas hesitated before answering, choosing his words carefully. "I believe the best course of action now is to see a lawyer. You need legal guidance to deal with this situation. It is important to find out what really happened, and a lawyer can help with this." Melanie shook her head, trying to absorb the information. "So everything about our lives is a lie. We are not who we thought we were. I know this comes as a huge shock, but you have a right to know the truth. A lawyer can help investigate what happened. Maybe there was an error at the hospital, or something else that needs to be cleared up," Dr. Nicholas said, his voice calm and comforting. Leanne looked at Melanie, tears filling her eyes. "Let's find a lawyer, Melanie. We need to discover the truth." Melanie agreed, shaking her sister's hand. "Yes, let's do this together." Dr. Nicholas handed them a contact card for a lawyer specializing in hospital malpractice cases. "Here is the contact information for a trusted lawyer. Get in touch with him as soon as possible." The girls thanked Dr. Nicholas and left the office, feeling lost and confused, but determined to discover the truth about their origins. Leanne contacted Thomas, a lawyer specializing in lost and exchanged children cases. He promised to get to the bottom of the mystery. Melanie and Leanne arranged a meeting with him. The first step was to interview the girls' parents, Mr. and Mrs. Silvas. Thomas organized a meeting in his office. The parents arrived visibly nervous, but willing to cooperate. Thomas greeted them with a reassuring smile. "Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. Silvas. Thanks for coming. I know this situation is very delicate, but we need to clarify some things to help Melanie and Leanne," Thomas said calmly. Mr. Silva crossed his arms, clearly defensive. "How can we help? This all seems like a big misunderstanding. I understand your concern. Let's just talk a little about the birth of the girls. Can you tell us what you remember about that day?" Thomas asked. Mrs. Silva looked at her husband before responding. "I remember it was a blessed day. The girls were born healthy and were taken to the nursery. Shortly after, the nurses brought them to us." Thomas took notes as he listened. "Did you notice anything strange at the time? Any differences that caught your attention?" "No, nothing strange. They were our girls. We had no reason to suspect anything," Mr. Silva replied, trying to remain calm. Thomas nodded. "I understand. The next step is crucial. I would like to suggest that you, together with Melanie and Leanne, take a new DNA test. We need to confirm the results we have so far." The parents reluctantly agreed. "If this helps to clarify everything, we will do the test," said Mrs. Silva. A few days later, the results came back and the tension in the air was palpable as everyone gathered in Thomas's office to hear the verdict. Thomas looked at the results before speaking. "The results confirm that Leanne shares DNA with you, but Melanie does not. This suggests that Melanie was switched at the hospital and given to the wrong parents." Thomas explained, carefully. Mrs. Silva put his hand over his mouth, his eyes filling with tears. "This cannot be true. Melanie is our daughter. How could this have happened?" Mr. Silva fell silent, shock evident on his face. "We always thought they were our girls. How can we be sure now?" Thomas looked at his parents with empathy. "This is devastating, I know. But the important thing now is to discover the truth. We need to investigate the hospital where the girls were born. It is possible that there was a mistake or, even worse, an intentional act." Melanie and Leanne looked at each other, feeling various emotions. Leanne broke the silence. "What do we do now, Thomas?" Thomas took a deep breath. "We will continue the investigation. I'll look through the hospital archives and see if we can find any more information. I know this is very difficult, but we will work through this together." The parents felt it, still stunned by the revelation. "Yes, we need to know the truth," said Mr. Silva, his voice firm despite the shock. Thomas decided to investigate the hospital where the girls were born. The hospital reluctantly released the files after a court subpoena. Records revealed that 2 sets of African-American twins were born that weekend. The possibility of an administrative error and negligence that switched the babies was high. The couple were horrified by the idea that they could have raised someone else's biological daughter. However, Melanie and Leanne promised that, regardless of the outcome of the investigation, nothing would change between them. Thomas organized a meeting at the hospital the next day. When Melanie and Leanne met Diane and Darlene, they felt an immediate familiarity. Diane and Darlene also noticed something special. The parents of the 2 twins were perplexed by the situation. Thomas ordered more blood tests for all family members. The results confirmed that Leanne and Diane were twins, as were Melanie and Darlene. With these discoveries, the families came together to investigate the hospital's negligence. Thomas compiled reports and discovered something surprising. On a Monday morning, Ms. Silva received a call from Thomas asking them to meet in court. When they arrived, they found the African-American family, who also had children of different ages. Thomas explained the grotesque truth of what had happened. Sure enough, the room was full of people like the Silvas. Families who, for the past 20 years, had taken home the wrong baby. Melanie and Leanne could hardly believe their eyes. They were not the only ones to experience this terrible reality. They could not find comfort in this. Instead, they felt quite agitated. If they hadn't taken that DNA test, all these people would never have discovered the truth about themselves. How could this happen? How could such a famous and well-known hospital get away with such negligence? Along with many other family lawyers, Thomas took the hospital to court over their findings. They have ruined families for generations. The Silvas would never be the same again, just like no other family. Melanie and Leanne still loved their parents, but Melanie had another set of parents with whom she shared her genetics. Would these parents welcome her? Would they be able to tell her about their great-grandparents? And how did she inherit the color of her eyes? The medical team responsible for the crime was rigorously interviewed. The hospital wanted to find the culprit as it did not want to be synonymous with such a horrible scandal. The trial took months. Meanwhile, the twins went to college, the same college that Diane and Darlene decided to attend. They stayed in nearby dorms and got to know each other outside of the drama of the legal battle, which was becoming too much for them. They wanted to move on with their lives and discover who they were now that their world had been torn apart. One day, all the twins were called back to court. Their parents insisted they attend so they could have some closure. They believed they had found the culprit, an individual who was solely responsible for all the evil the families had experienced. When the twins entered the courtroom, they saw a middle-aged woman sitting on the bench. The scar on her face said it all. She was a miserable woman, clearly with a bad heart. When questioned, the truth came out of her ugly mouth. She described in detail how much she hated African Americans. She took care of the babies at the daycare and saw only hatred when they cried. She laughed at them, and when the mothers were in pain, she only offered placebos. This was the most horrible nurse anyone could encounter, clearly mentally unstable. With a hyena laugh, she detailed how she purposely switched all African American babies whenever she got the chance. She considered his plan to be more diabolical and mocked the court audience, calling them stupid for taking so long to find out. The judge quickly interrupted the nurse, asking for silence. The audience was naturally agitated. Mothers were crying and fathers were screaming at the injustice they had endured. The Silvas were shocked by the nurse's confession. Melanie and Leanne could not understand such hatred. How could a grown woman be so cruel to babies? What did they do to her? Despite their resentment, they knew it wasn't worth hating a woman so full of evil. Thanks to Thomas and his team, she would now live in her lonely mind in prison. The news spread through the media. Melanie and Leanne were at the forefront, with journalists quickly telling how their story sparked an important investigation. The girls hated the attention and avoided any opportunity to be seen, but their mother reminded them of the good they had done. Nothing would change the fact that they were a family. This horrible situation taught them that family transcends blood and is much more than that. Regardless of the DNA results, Melanie and Leanne would always be sisters, and their parents, their guardians. They had been this for so long, why would they change now? The girls thanked Thomas and Dr. Nicholas for everything they did for them. They had a feeling that everyone ignored, and thanks to these two men, they were able to see how accurate their intuitions were. Not only did they solve the mystery in their own family, they also righted a long-standing injustice. How would you feel if you found out that the person you spent years and years of your life with wasn't your child? What would you do? Could you get out of this person's life? Tell us in the comments. If you liked this moving story, I ask you to please leave a like on this video and share it with your friends. And this other video that is appearing on your screen right now is also very moving, and will certainly move you too. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news, and see you in the next video.